Welcome to This Organized Life. If you're a mom, wife, or coffee lover seeking advice on how to reduce clutter and reclaim time, look no further than your host, Lori Palau, founder of Simply Be Organized and author of Hot Mess, a practical guide to getting organized. For a lot of people, clutter is their dirty little secret, but it doesn't have to be. Each week, we will share practical tips, chat with experts, and provide strategies on how to keep you organized. I hope that by sharing our stories, you feel a little less alone and more empowered to tackle the areas that are holding you back. So let's get started.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to today's episode of This Organized Life podcast. I am your host, Lori Palau. And guess what, guys? You're listening to some real time. It is leap year, something that happens once every 4 years. And here we are, dropping this episode on February the 29th, 2024. So I decided to be a little cutesy / cliche for this episode and make it a leaped theme episode. So we're calling this episode Leap into Faith. And the leap into faith is a pretty broad term, and it is really about embracing change. So that could be personal change, it could be professional change, but I feel like everybody that I know, either in real life or through our online community, is experiencing some sort of change. So, regardless of whether you are going through a personal transition or a professional transition, it's hard and it's scary wherever you are. And being organized and whatever that looks like, whether it's your physical space or with your time or just the emotional kind of guilt, mental load, all the things, it's all impacted. It's all interwoven. And so when we are thinking about making changes in our lives, we are embracing all of it, right? So our career changes impact the stuff that's going on in our personal life. And if we're making a personal development change, it affects everything like our relationships and our finances. So, what I want to do is kind of break this episode down into some very specific, kind of tactical things. And we're going to look at two different areas. So, first, we're going to look at people who might be considering embracing a change professionally. And obviously, I speak to a lot of women who are in a period of transition. Maybe they are looking to re enter the workforce because they had small kids at home and they were doing the whole stay at home mom thing. And now their kids are in school and they're like, or their kids are going to be in school like in the fall. And they're thinking, what does that look like? I want to maybe start a part time job or a side hustle or do something on my own. Or I also get, calls and emails from women who are in corporate America and are helping to support their selves financially and their families financially, but they're really unhappy and unfulfilled. And they're like, I want to do something in for myself that has a little bit more meaning, where I feel like I'm doing something more impactful and more purposeful. And how do you make that transition, right? How do you decide I'm going to leave the security of a, steady paycheck with benefits to go on this entrepreneurial journey? I mean, that's not an easy decision to make. But then on the flip side, I also have people, maybe they're not in that professional kind of wrestling, but they want to embrace some change in something in their life, some habit or behavior that's just not working for them. And for me, obviously, it's usually people are like, I want to change something about myself so I can live a little bit more simply. I want to become more organized, whether that means that they want to shop less. They want to have less obligations on their calendar. They want to start being more intentional about decluttering, or maybe they are trying to get their family on board, but for so many years, they've been the do it all one. I'm the only person that does it. And I don't even know where to start on building these new healthy habits. All of this, folks, is change, and all of it is scary. So, we're going to look at those two different areas, your professional side of things and your personal side of things. And again, there's a lot of overlap between the two. So, hopefully, if you are listening to this, you're going to be able to resonate with one of those two areas. So let's just start here with the people that are in that kind of career change. Because again, I get a lot of um, feedback from women who are either starting a professional organizing business or thinking about doing something that they feel really called to do, but aren't really sure the best way to go about it. And I really, everybody's situation is unique, but we're going to break it into three different takeaway points and we're going to unpack each one of them. The first one, I think this is really important for everybody to consider is how is this change going to impact our lives financially? Now, again, you can look at it from two sides of the coin. So if you are somebody who is a stay-at-home mom and you've been a stay-at-home mom for a few years and you have that kind of resume gap and you're like, wow, I'm going to be going into the workforce after so many years. I haven't done it. I feel really out of touch. I don't know what my market value is. But I know that I want to do something. And I also know that even though my kids are going to be in school, I still have a lot of obligations as a mom and I want to do all the things, right? I want to be the homeroom mom, or I want to be able to be there to go to all the after school activities. I get it because that was me. But maybe you want to just bring in some additional money into your home. So maybe what you're going to be doing is contributing to your family's finances by offsetting the groceries each month. Or maybe you want to say, you know what, I'd like to take a vacation. I would love to feel like I'm doing something to contribute towards that. I'm a believer that when you get married, your finances are combined, right? You don't have his and hers, it's ours. But maybe financially, you feel like you want to be doing more of a contribution. Maybe you need to be, right? So whether it's a emotional desire or an actual need for your family, how is this change going to impact your family financially? So if you're not working, you're going to be adding more value. But then I think there's also things to think about, right? If you're doing something on your own, um, are we going to have to, hire people to help? Maybe you will, maybe you won't. But I think these are the conversations that need to happen. How is it going to impact us financially? Now, again, if you're on the flip side and you're going from a corporate job and all of a sudden you're going to be starting something new, you need to be looking at, is it something that can sustain me full time? Can we afford to go down to one income? Do we need benefits? What are those things? Or can I start this as a side hustle? Is this something that I want to start to do this, take this leap, start to build out this new initiative, this new career path for myself? But maybe I'm not going to do it full time. Maybe I'm going to do it once a week so that I just can do it on Saturdays, right? Because I have a full time job, 9 to 5. What is the financial implication? So I think that's the first, that one thing. And if you are going to be making a big change, like going from a dual income to a single income while you go all in on this, are there things that you're going to have to scale back on? I am a big believer in budgeting. I tell people that all the time. We've done episodes on budgeting. I love to budget. If you want to talk to me about setting up a budget, I can help you do it. Um, I know a lot of people just cringe at the thought of it, but as somebody who's like a numbers person and likes to have these kinds of conversations, I totally want to be able to help you out with that. So I think it's really important that you have this budget conversation, because if you don't, then you don't know what you're dealing with. So again, whether you're going to be adding to your families or you're going to be taking away from your family's finances, having those honest conversations is really, really important. Okay. The second thing is, how is this change going to impact our daily routines? That is huge, because especially if you have families, if you have kids at home, chances are there are things that are going to be impacted. If you are, again, used to being a stay at home mom, and now you're going to be working even a couple days a week out of the home, the things that you did on those days are not going to happen. So you're going to have to either redistribute your schedule to say, okay, well, I'll have to do laundry differently at a different time of day, or I'm going to do my grocery shopping at a different day, or I'm going to start using Instacart because it's more efficient for me. There's going to be some sort of growing pains and changes. Doesn't mean it's bad, But these are things that you're going to have to think about because you're adding something new into the mix. And so that's going to impact your daily schedule. Now, on the flip side, if you're like, hey, I'm starting this professional organizing business and I'm leaving my corporate job to do this, maybe you're going to have a little bit more free time. That's also going to change up your schedule. So maybe you had somebody driving your kids to and from, maybe your kids were in daycare or you had your kids in aftercare. Now you don't have to. Now that's going to free up your schedule in a different way. Regardless of your situation, whenever you're making that career change, whether you're adding or subtracting, there's going to be some sort of impact. So just mapping out what are the different areas specifically that are going to have the biggest um, impact for that. Meal prep's a big one. So that again falls under that. If you are somebody that was cooking all day now, or like maybe I need to order a meal prep service to kind of help offset this as I'm adding this new layer into our life. Or maybe you're like, I did a lot of takeout and now I'm going to have time to meal prep. So, really, whatever it is, these are the things that you're going to want to really talk about because these are the things that the little details that add up to you living an organized life and not having this change be any more stressful than change already naturally is. Okay. So we've already talked about financially, we've talked about the impact with your routines. The third area, which a lot of people don't necessarily take the time to articulate until it's kind of too late, is the impact of this relationally. And when I say too late, I mean, you don't want to result in fights and miscommunication. So if you can be proactive in sitting down with your spouse or partner and your kids, depending on age appropriateness, whatever, if that makes sense for them, how is this change going to impact the relationships in your family? And really what I mean is, what are you like, if you're working and you're starting a new thing, that is going to be maybe taking time away that you would have one-on-one with somebody. So how can we be intentional about scheduling a date night or teaching our kids that, hey, I know that I used to do all of the things, but maybe I'm not, or I'm not going to be able to do that anymore because I'm starting a new thing. So that means you're going to have to get your own snacks or make your own lunches. It's all about setting that expectation and having that healthy communication. But what happens is a lot of times we make changes. We've been planning all of this stuff in our heads or kind of mapping it out on paper, but we don't necessarily communicate what that's going to translate to or look like practically to the people that it's impacted other than ourselves. And so if you are embarking in some sort of professional change, regardless of whatever it looks like, sit down and look at these three areas and see, how is it going to impact our finances? How is this going to impact our routines? And how is this going to impact our relationships? All right, let's switch gears now and talk about a personal growth journey. So, for a lot of people, personal growth journey, especially when it comes to clutter and organization, is something that, like, once you listen to that podcast or watch that YouTube video and you're like, yes, I'm going to start decluttering, I'm going to start developing healthy habits, I'm going to start practicing minimalism, whatever that is, you like have that light bulb moment, you get inspired, and you're like, I am going all in. And I know I've gone in all in on a lot of things, right? Whether it's working out or adopting a certain, practice in something. It's human nature to be really excited about it. And one of the things that I know I've gotten caught up in myself at times, and I caution other people, especially when it comes to decluttering, is when you get on this decluttering journey and you see the impact that it has in your life, you start to get preachy to other people. You start to tell them what you're doing and why they should be doing it. And one of the things that I always try to caution people is please, as much as you want to do it, and I understand that you're excited and you see this change, and you see it a lot when people lose weight, right? If people decide that they're going to adopt a certain lifestyle, whether they're going to become a vegan or they're going to go keto or whatever they're going to do, or they're going to take up a certain type of a workout, and they start seeing change, all of a sudden they want everybody else to experience the success that they're having. So they're going to talk about it nonstop. And because not everybody responds the same way, it can often be off putting. And I see it a lot when it comes to decluttering, specifically within families, because somebody starts to do something and then they want everybody else to do it too. And what I tell people all the time, when you're taking this leap and you're changing and bringing something new in, adopting something into your life, is leading by example. And I've done episodes about that as well. But it's really, really important to try to be mindful as you're going on this new journey for yourself and you're trying out these new things, that you are not forcing other people to come along with you, that this is a personal journey. This is a personal goal. This is something that you're working towards. This is a struggle that you have, that you want to see change in your life. And so the reason that you're doing it is for you. And I know that's hard because so many people are really motivated by that external validation. But when it comes to decluttering and having it be sustainable, the greatest impact is for your own internal, like how it makes you feel, not for the validation of other people. Like, look at how nice my house is, or look at how organized I am. That is, that gets old, because if you don't get that validation, that's where a lot of people start to get frustrated, and it becomes super, super like shallow and on shaky ground. In addition to leading by example, the next thing I also want to tell people is to document your progress. When you are taking a leap of faith into a new behavior, a new habit, a new practice, whether again, that's working out, eating cleanly, trying to yell at your kids as much, trying to not be a control freak, trying to declutter more, our habits are ingrained in us. So there's going to be a learning curve. And it's really important for you to document what's going on in your life. How am I feeling about this? What successes did I have? And you could do this if you're somebody who likes to write it down. If you're somebody who wants to just make a quick little video, make a little vlog, you can do it. You don't even have to make it public if you don't want to. But some people really like to have that, oh, I'm going to tell people so I have that accountability to stick with it. I know I just said you have to do it for yourself, but there's nothing wrong with going, I'm going to get an accountability buddy to help me along this journey. So I'm going to do a blog, and once a week, I'm going to talk about what I accomplished. Or I am going to just journal and make sure that I journal every single night before I go to bed, so that I can have kind of like real time feedback of what's happening. So, whenever you're going through personal development, it's nice to be able to have that documentation of some point as you're kind of going through that, because we forget, like we get so busy doing the thing that we kind of oftentimes lose sight of where we started, or how far we've come, or what we're working towards, or why we're working towards it. And so just being able to kind of separate it and like take that 10,000-foot view is really, really helpful as a practice along the way. And then the third thing, and this goes true for anybody, whether you're talking about personally or professionally, expect some pushbacks and setbacks. Um, People are resistant naturally to change. I know there's some people that embrace it more than others, but most people are resistant to change. And watching and observing change in other people can be weird. I know, even just in my own personal experiences, people are used to you behaving in a certain way. And so when you embrace something new, that can be a little bit off putting for them. And they don't always know how to respond. So if you're somebody that always goes out and is always shopping and always buying stuff, and all of a sudden you're like, you know what? I'm not going to go to Home Goods and do this, or I'm just going to browse and not get anything. People are like, what are you talking about? Just like if you're like, oh, let's go for drinks, and somebody says, you know what? I'm going to like cut back on my drinking. And you're like, oh, okay. And again, it's not that people are necessarily like naysaying it, but it's just not what they're expecting. So just become aware that if you're changing something new and it involves like the way you interact with other people in a social setting, there's going to be probably some people who are going to have comments. Now, some people are going to be like, oh my God, that's awesome. That's great. And other people will be like, why are you doing that? None of their opinions really should matter to you. But again, it does. We are humans, and it does give us pause. And some people are kind of embarrassed to share that, especially if it's clutter and that's been your dirty little secret. So just be mindful of what you share, what you don't share, and how it's going to be received. But try to remember that you are making this change, this leap of faith for you, not for other people. And what it's going to give you. It's going to give you freedom. It's going to give you clarity. It's going to give you peace of mind. Whatever that fill in the blank is, whatever your why is, that's what you want to keep coming back to. And you want to also, when you're documenting, you want to keep writing that down, remind or repeating that mantra of why you're doing this in the first place. And that is fuel to help you keep going. So the other thing I always tell people is you're probably going to have a setback. Is as we go through any type of a journey of, personal change, there are times where you're like, hey, I'm going to start eating really healthy. And then you have a bad day and you're like, screw it. I'm going to, have an ice cream cone. Okay. I get it. Like we've all been there. Or I'm really trying to be mindful about my shopping, but I went to the store and got a bunch of things and I didn't get rid of anything else. Don't beat yourself up about it. Be curious. Instead of beating yourself up about these things, be curious. What happened in my life right before I did that to cause that reaction? Why did I feel the need to do that? Or what prompted me? It could be something good. It could be something negative. It could be something stressful. It could be something celebratory. Again, we are used to doing like our same routines. If you're an adult and you're listening to this and you're in your 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, you're talking about decades of learned behavior. If you're like, hey, I just got a promotion, I'm going to go out and buy myself a new pair of shoes, and that's what you always did, it is counterintuitive for you to be like, oh my gosh, I just got a promotion and yay, I'm going to just, call somebody and do a little happy dance or go out for a drink with a friend. So there are things that we have to reteach ourselves a new way of doing things. And that takes time, people. That takes time. So whether your leap of faith is personal or professional, chances are it's going to be scary. It's going to be filled with self-doubt and fear and failure and societal expectations. But the bottom line is you will never know the success and the fruitfulness and the joy unless you try. So here's my invitation for all of you guys on this sleep year. If anything that I've said today resonates with you, either on the professional side of things or on the personal side of things, I would love to hop on a call with you. So I have a strategy call session that is available to anybody. My space is limited. They do fill up quickly, but I would love to talk with you through whatever this leap of faith is that you're taking, whether it's a personal thing, whether it's professionally, specifically, if it is something that you're like, I want to embark on this, and I am just a little fearful of what the next right step is for me, hop on my calendar. I'm going to drop the link below in the show notes. And again, this is for you because I believe that change happens when we are intentional. When we continue doing the same patterns that we've always done, we stay in the same patterns of behavior. So we have to come outside our comfort zones. And clutter and organization are at the crux of this. So if you can start to dial in and give yourself permission to make those changes, I am here for it. So again, would love to chat with you. I'd love to champion you on. So hop on my calendar, book a strategy call today, and I will be back next week with another episode. Until then, I'm Lori Palau. Peace out. Thanks for tuning in. If you like this episode, please spread the love and share it with your friends. And if this is your first time joining us, make sure to click the subscribe button wherever you are listening so you never miss an episode. And while you're there, please leave us a review so other people know that our show is worth the listen. You can also find us on YouTube and Instagram at This Organized Life Podcast. And if you'd like to connect with us, you can head on over to our website at simply the letter B like boy organized.com, which is filled with tons of resources, including free downloads, checklists, links to our amazing organizing partners, and all of our digital offerings. I'll see you next week for another episode of This Organized Life.